Hi, I'm Scott Flowers with Cloud Ninjas. Today we're here to start a new series on the Dell PowerEdge R750xs. In this video we're going to specifically focus on processors, but in the video series as a whole we're going to cover CPUs, memory, drives, network cards, we're going to talk about RAID, we're going to talk about how to update your BIOS, how to do mass updates, how to put this bad boy in the rack behind us, plus a bunch more. So click that like and smash that subscribe. Let's get going. Hey, thanks for stopping by today to learn a little bit more about the Dell PowerEdge R750xs. As we mentioned, this is going to be specifically dedicated to CPUs. So what we're going to do in this video, we're going to talk about some just general information, then we're going to talk about the recommended CPUs, and then we're going to show you how to remove your old CPU and install or upgrade your new CPU. So let's just hop into all the fun stuff. All right, so let's talk about general specs. So first off, there are two CPUs inside. It's an LGA 4189 socket, which means it takes Intel Xeon 3rd gen scalable processors. So what CPUs can you put inside? Well, that's going to be your 4300 silver and your 5300 or 6300 gold. Can I put an 8300 platinum? No. Unfortunately, that's the key. That's why it's an XS. So XS technically is a scaled back version of your 750, and so one of the scaled back versions is CPUs, the other big one is RAM, there's other stuff as well, but essentially you cannot put in platinum processors. That's okay. So for some people that could be an issue, so just go to your 750xs or just go to your R750. But if you want a cheaper version where maybe you're only putting in 256 gigs and you're putting in low-end CPUs, I mean, this is a perfect box for it, right? And especially for storage, which this box is, you don't always need a high-end processor. So the 750xs might actually be a better storage box than the 750 on the large form factor side. But anyhow, I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's get into, well, what CPUs do we recommend? Well, that depends on your budget, your application. So we break it down into three categories. And this is only some of the compatible CPUs, so it's not everything, but we break it down to our low end, our value, and our high end. And really it's kind of self-explanatory. The low end is going to be your budget-friendly, just cheapest processors that are the lowest specs. Your value is going to be that sweet spot where you get still good specs, but you don't break the bank. And then your high end is going to be, wait for it, the best procs that you can get, which with this machine is only 32 cores. So the best you can do is 232 cores to get to 64 cores total. I mean, that's not terrible, but you know, nowadays you're getting a single processor that is 192 cores, and hell, by the time you're watching this in the future, it might be a lot more. In fact, I know it'll be a lot more, but right now the highest you can get with an AMD EPYC is 192 cores with the newest and latest and greatest, and this is a older box and 2 gens old as we're making this video, and by the time you watch it, it might be even 3 or 4 gens old, but it's still a hell of a great box, right? And so that's why we make these videos, is to update the specs and to tell you what's compatible, what's not compatible, and show you things like installs. So all that being said, let's hit the install.
Hey, this is Mason with Cloud Ninjas, and today we'll be showing you guys how to properly remove an old processor and install a new one into your Dell PowerEdge R750xs server. Now, as you can see, we have our required materials in front of us. We have our processor, a T30-bit screwdriver, a new tube of thermal paste, and a clean rag to clean the old thermal paste off that heatsink and the old processor. Let's go ahead and set these to the side, pop our latch, and lift our top just like any other server you've been in before. First things first, let's go ahead and remove the air baffle by lifting it up like a hinge and setting it to the side. Now go ahead and grab your T30-bit screwdriver and let's begin unscrewing the heatsink off the motherboard. When we unscrew the heatsink, you'll want to start here and then go across in an X formation and do the next screw. Unscrewing the heatsink this way helps prevent damaging the motherboard, so make sure that when you unscrew the heatsink from the motherboard that you go one at a time, unscrewing the screws in an X formation. Once you have completely unscrewed all the screws, go ahead and push the metal tabs around the screws and simply lift the heatsink and processor up from the motherboard. To the side of the server, we can see that the CPU is still attached to the bracket that is locked onto the heatsink. All you need to do is flip this lever here and lift the CPU from the heatsink and simply slide out the CPU from under the tiny black tabs holding the sides of the processor, and then lift straight up. Now we will grab our clean rag and begin cleaning the old thermal paste from the heatsink and the old processor. Now it's a good idea to do this off to the side of the server because you don't want any of that old thermal paste flaking off and getting into the CPU socket or the DIMM slots and even the motherboard in general. So just make sure to clean that old thermal paste off to the side of the server. Alright, so now that we'll grab our new CPU and our new tube of thermal paste and begin applying the thermal paste to the top of the CPU. This will start a war in the comment section. Some say that we use too much, others say that we use too little, but really you want to make sure that you have a nice even balance of thermal paste. So go ahead and put enough that will cover the top of the CPU, but not too much that placing the processor back onto the heatsink causes the thermal paste to leak out. Like I said earlier, you just want to find a nice even balance of thermal paste to apply to the top of that CPU. Now that our thermal paste is applied to the processor, we will look at this gold triangle here and then line it up to the triangle that's on the bracket here. Attaching the processor back to the bracket is simple. Once you have that lever down, you can easily slide the processor under the black tabs that hold the CPU and go to each side of the processor to make sure that the tabs are holding the processor firmly to the heatsink. Now we can go back to our server and place the heatsink and processor back on the socket, making sure that the screws on the heatsink fit into the screw holes on each corner of the socket, and push the metal tabs in the corners of the heatsink outward to ensure that the CPU is all the way into the socket. Now all we need to do is take our T30-bit screwdriver and screw the heatsink back onto the motherboard in an X formation like we did when we uninstalled the heatsink at the beginning of the install. Congratulations, you have successfully removed an old processor and installed a new one into your Dell PowerEdge R750xs server. Hey, do us a favor, click that like button and smash subscribe. If you're looking for any custom built Dell, HPE, Supermicro, Gigabyte, Asus, maybe you're looking for an AMD Ryzen server, we do it all. We have both new and refurbished, so please give us a call or email us at sales@cloudninjas.com. That's sales@cloudninjas.com. Anyways guys, thanks for stopping by.